You know, the nation and our region are really grappling with the future of our young people. We know from Opportunity Nation that there are 5.5 million people 16 to 24 years old who are not in school and they're not working, which represents 1 in 7. We know from the broader job market that there are 6 million available jobs and 8 million unemployed people, and a clear misalignment between the skills that are needed and the skills that are present. We know that in our region, poverty, language, and skill barriers exacerbate all of this. And they're working against us to create huge awareness gaps and really propelling this negative narrative that suppresses hope. But y'all, it need not be that way. That need not be our story. In fact, it doesn't take a lot of change to make a lot of change here. We just need a map. The path forward for us as a region is pathways. A path to where all of the assets we already have are directed toward the shared vision of what we want to become so we can have the future we all want. And then what we do is we create pathways for these greatest resources and put them in the position of being our future builders. We know that we can make needle-moving change here. We've done it before. We've seen the needle move. Let me remind you. In 2007, the business community of Dona Ana County, New Mexico, was recognizing the crisis being created by the fact that half of our high school students were not finishing. Now, not only did that, kind of inhibit our business leaders in their own ability to grow their businesses, it was suppressing economic development. It was creating barriers to drawing new businesses and new jobs here. But far more importantly, it was severely limiting the opportunities that would ever be available to these young people who did not understand they were making a devastating decision so early in their lives. Well, the business community went to the educational leaders, not pointing their fingers, but saying, how can we help? And it began a community conversation about the importance of high school graduation. It led to the identification of an intervention that could work for our students, New Mexico's first early college high school. But more importantly, it elevated the importance of high school graduation across the region. Today, that conversation between business, education, economic development, and government leaders continues. And what's awesome is we're celebrating the fact that 4 out of 5 of our students are now graduating high school. That's needle-moving change. We've done it before. So now that we've got them across that first academic finish line, how do we propel them across at least one more? How do we get them truly career ready for the jobs and industries that are here now that would provide for them employment, advancement, and high wages, but simultaneously drive up the economic growth of our region? Well, we do what we did before. We find a better pathway. And we need to understand that our young people are caught in the nexus of change in our country right now. They are bearing the burden of this misalignment between education and workforce preparedness that has perpetuated the much discussed soft skills gap. We know that the college and career ready mantra has created professional students rather than professionals. We know that the higher cost of higher ed is kind of not able to guarantee the high wages that it once was. And the rising minimum wage is having a correspondingly negative impact on youth employment. So what do? How do we help them? And how do we get out of their way? Well, everyone has a role to play in building the workforce we need. And we need to understand and rally ourselves around 4 key connections. We know that education is the key to producing talent. Talent is the key to attracting jobs. Jobs are the key to economic development, but economic development at its core will drive regional prosperity. And we are very aspirational as a region. We have somewhere between 7 and 13 economic development plans that give a picture of what we want to be when we grow up. Far too many of our neighbors don't know that and don't know what opportunities are available to them. And across all these plans, a single factor must be present. It is a single factor upon which success or failure rides: the presence of a skilled and ready workforce. We simply hadn't taken the time to build the pathway to get that until now. So now that we have understood a little bit more of what we're up against, we convened a broad conversation. We gathered a group together that we call the Workforce Talent Collaborative. They're people with the resources and the programs that are already engaged in the workforce development continuum. We rallied around them what we call a community of progress, people who work with those who face barriers to employment to help us be holistic in our solutions. And we began a conversation. And what we've come to understand is we must harness these assets and point them in the same direction. We need good policy. Policy is sustainability. We need to prioritize investment in things like dual credit, career and technical education pathways for our young people. But we also need to target better the federal and state investments that we already have. We know that the business community must lead. The business community has such a critical role to play in deeply, more meaningfully engaging with teachers, with schools, with young peoples. And what we talk about is 5 ships. Leadership, that's where you change curriculum. Mentorship, internship, apprenticeship, and externships for teachers. What's the impact of a teacher spending 2 weeks in a business environment and learning what's real and relevant and taking that back to her class where she will over the next year reach 150 to 200 kids? Business has such an important role to play. We must be STEM proficient as a community and as a region. Science, technology, engineering, and math, they're all vital to the 21st century industries. If you want to throw the A in there for arts, that's fine. Communication is a critical skill that's needed. And for us, we sure better put in the H for health, because our healthcare industry is our largest, fastest growing, best paying. So we need to be proficient in all of those things. And then you've got 4 levers of change you must mobilize. You've got to propel kids past that high school finish line, but then cross at least one more. And what we've done is we've said a 4-year college degree was the only acceptable one. But we've only told part of the story. Career certifications and associate's degrees can out-earn many 4-year degrees, but we've not told that story. We have things like dual credit, like the early college high school model, and career and technical education that help a young person in high school, while they're still there, go into their college career. You can finish some things, career certifications. You can finish an associate's degree in an early college high school. So use the tools we have to propel them toward a completion line. And it doesn't have to be only one, right? Success happens at many levels. Career certifications, associate's degrees, bachelor's, and higher, they're all definitions of success, but we just need to tell a better story. Well, the other piece that you really need addresses the opportunity youth, these 16 to 24-year-olds for whom life has gotten in the way. How do we prioritize our federal and state investments to help them? Well, once you've done all this, you've got a comprehensive approach to workforce development, but you get a bonus. You change culture. We become a culture of completion, a culture of high expectations, a culture of lifelong learning. And we change the narrative about what it means to grow up here. It becomes a great place to grow up. Well, with the Workforce Talent Collaborative and the Community of Progress, we convened a set of industries that appeared across all these plans, and they were industries that were here now with good wages, potential for growth, and they are healthcare, defense, agriculture, but we mean value-added agriculture, digital media, advanced manufacturing, transportation and logistics, energy, and aerospace. And what we did then for each of these industry targets, we built a corresponding workforce development pathway to get there. This is just one, and we combined aerospace and defense because the characteristics and the qualities you need, the skills you need are very similar. But start at the bottom. If you look across the bottom, that's a career progression in these industries. The trades and the technicians, that's the ground floor. But what's really interesting is for us in our county, $36,000 is the median income. So you'll never be in working poverty in this industry, right? In either one of these. So you start with the trades and technicians. Then you go to the higher skilled, a little better paying engineering techs. Of course, you've got your physicists, your chemists, your 4-year engineers and higher. But then you want to give birth to entrepreneurs, people who will start businesses here, grow businesses here, and hire here. Well, we have the academic assets we need across the top. We have career and technical education pathways in STEM fields. We have a STEM-focused early college high school. And then we also have relationships with community colleges that allow students to get propelled while they're in high school into their college career. We just need to better use the community colleges. They're not a second choice. They're another great choice. Career certifications and licensures, associate's degrees, when you talk about the middle skills gap, that's where you go fill it. We have the universities, and we have universities that have relationships with the community colleges. And what we need to do is have more of the 2+2 type programs where I complete an academic finish line, but I'm so much closer to completing the next. And then the other thing is we're starting to get smart. We have a lot of people in these industries here now. How do we leverage the university assets to keep our own workforce on the cutting edge in aerospace and defense? Well, we're starting to do that. Underneath is the non-traditional pathway. This is the part where you mobilize your federal and state investments to help young people get the education that they need and putting them in the position of out-earning their benefits because they've entered the workforce pipeline. Get them there quickly and efficiently, and then they can go however far they want, but they're in at a great starting point. The part we've kind of done, but we've not really done it systemically and well, is the work-based learning piece. That's where externships for teachers are so important. What is the value of a teacher and a business professional co-designing a work-based learning opportunity for students in the classroom? That's how you close the soft skills gap. So externships for teachers, internships, and at the high school level, you can pay them or not, because in many cases, there are internship programs that provide credit. But for sure at the college level, with internships, co-ops, and apprenticeships, they need to be paid. Why? Because what we know is the majority of college students are working also. So why not put them in a position to learn and earn together? And by the way, the employer is kind of prospecting his future workforce, his or her future workforce. So it's a terrific model and opportunity. And then you've got to rally the resources you have around this budding set of potential entrepreneurs, and you leverage the assets you have to support that innovation and the business development. Well, the great thing about this is, so this tells all of us in the continuum what our job is, but this very simple graphic conveys a very simple message. It is the map for our young people who now know how far in my academic career do I need to go to become that, to earn that. And so, and what resources are available to me? And how important is this work-based learning thing? So this becomes the map for them so that they can find their way. We know that for us, this is an urgent matter. Poverty in our region is significant. In Dona Ana County, for us, our general population, our poverty rates are higher than the state and nation, but the younger you look, the worse it's getting. And with what we know about the generational poverty issue, children who grow up in poverty are more likely to stay there. We have to break the cycle of poverty now. The beauty of the pathways is that they also show the unemployed, the underemployed, and the low-skilled workers what they need to do too, and how close change is for them. So just this last week, one of the leading economists in our region was talking about how do you get fast economic development? Well, you know what you do? You don't diversify your economy. You concentrate it on fast-growing, high-wage industries. That's what we're doing. That's exactly what we're doing. So for us, we know that pathways are the path forward for us as a region. When we know that we'll get there, we know that we'll get there when the business community takes its lead in engaging with young people, in engaging in classrooms, engaging in the workforce development continuum through the 5 ships. The bonus is we close the soft skills gap. We know that we'll get there when the institutions and the agencies that serve our young people are aligned and coordinated, taking down the barriers that stand in their way and putting them in a pathway that propels them towards success. And we get a better return on our investment, by the way. We know that we'll get there when students and parents understand education is not a destination. It's part of the journey. they are then put in the position of being able to make better decisions about the education that is truly needed to become whatever you want to become in a career, and they can make those decisions more efficiently, effectively, and with less student debt. Students like Jalissa and Jocelyn, 2 kids that graduated from early college, both first-generation college attenders. Well, Jocelyn's on her way to becoming a doctor, so she took her associate's degree that she got right out of high school, and she's 2 years closer to the finish line. For Jalissa, high school was the finish line, but she also left with a college completion, and she's now working in a hospital, making good wages and getting terrific benefits. So you see, it doesn't take a lot of change to make a lot of change here. We just have to build the pathways that allow our young people to know just how close they are, how easy change is to achieve, and they will literally build our future. And then when they are doing that, when they have figured it out and we have rallied around them, we are putting ourselves in the position of showing other communities like us how they can do it too. Thank you all so much.